right now, like rut tactics, I genuinely feel like this is the time where you're going to see a giant do the stupid 2.5, 3-year-old mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I'm just going to kind of capitalize on. Some of my favorite hunts that I've been on is where like we went into a spot for 3 days, and first day we were on deer, but we weren't in the money. And we make a move, and then all of a sudden, okay, there's a target buck. We got to hunt him for the next couple days.
Welcome back to Hunt This Season. On this one here, I sat down with Nick Queen. We talked about hunting pressured whitetails in really any terrain. Really, I talk about the mountains primarily. He talks about more like flatland, hilly, rolling hills out in Illinois. So talk Pennsylvania hunting pressure and Illinois hunting pressure, but could be kind of taken all over the country, really. Unless you get out really far west, then it's completely different. But it was really fun chat with Nick Queen. Actually, I just got my first deer down this year. Took a little bit, but I got her down. I was actually in my mobile hunting setup. I was in my .5 with my saddle and my rifle, and I was actually shocked when I thought about it that it was actually my first deer out of a mobile hunting setup, which is kind of weird to say because I do have a lot of deer, but it's always been like either sitting on the ground or in a ladder stand when I was younger. So primarily most of my deer are actually on the ground. So this was a first, but she died very, very quickly. It was a good day. Cold day, but it was a good day. So this Saturday I was going to be going out. Decided to actually not go out now and actually go to a birthday party instead with my wife, my daughter. Going to go do that. And then Monday, going to go back out again, pull some cameras down, take them out of the woods, and try and hunt for a buck in the same area. But it was cool. It was cool packing her out on my .5 with my sticks and all that kind of stuff. It was a fun experience, that's for sure. And to have Ethan there, waiting at the truck, wondering where the heck I was pretty cool too. I will release a video of it. I think I might just do two videos this year: a bow hunting video as well as a rifle season video. Depending how long they are, I might break them into two each, depending. But keep an eye on the YouTube channel for that. I'll work on that in time. Right now, I'm just trying to focus on hunting right now. Hunting and family and getting ready for Christmas, all that kind of stuff. Have another daughter on the way, so try to get ready for that as well. So have a lot on my plate right now. On top of doing a full-time job and trying to put out episodes, which there will be some changes coming soon, but I'll do kind of like a full breakdown of that in a full episode probably. But really hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Really thank you guys for listening, all the support through the years. And remember to just enjoy the process. See you guys.
For all the listeners out there, Nick Queen is on the episode today. Because I had a guy cancel on me, which is fine. You know, things come up all the time. That happens. And I was like, who can I have on to talk about pressured whitetails with me? And it's like, when this is dropping, it'll be like, for Pennsylvania here, it'll be the second week, last full week, I guess, of rifle season in Pennsylvania. So like, there's a lot of like pressure in the woods at that point. And I'm like,
We just got done with our gun season here too, so
what is that out there in Illinois? Like, what's that gun
we
season
have
like?
a Kush gun season.
Okay.
It's beautiful. So last weekend it started on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
You have Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then it stops. And then you go
Okay.
back to bow season until not this weekend, but it'll be the first weekend of December, and it'll be Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then it's done.
Okay.
We'll have one more like late muzzleloader,
Mm-hmm.
but that late muzzleloader isn't like you can still bow hunt. There's no like special tags. You have to have a special tag to shoot the muzzleloader.
Right.
But if you just wanted a regular bow hunt with your bow hunting tags, then you're good to go.
So Illinois, you have, because I was out there once a few years ago. So it's
Mhm.
like you can have an archery tag and a rifle tag, and like, is that how
So
that
you
works?
so you can get it's not confusing, but it is. So you get in Illinois, you get 2 buck tags as a resident. Okay.
Right.
And then the law is wrote in which with does you can shoot as many as your family can eat. It's like
Okay.
how it like you so it's real gray. But I mean, they don't tell you no. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
Yeah.
they want them gone. And the counties they want restricted, they have like in the county that I live in, it's dumb, but we're not allowed to shoot does until the 1st of November.
Okay.
So
Okay.
like they have weird stuff like that. But so you get your 2 buck tags, you can only shoot one with a gun, but the
Mhm.
gun is a lottery. So like you have to like draw you don't have to draw in. So you
Mhm.
have to send off for your tags to get them early, and
Mhm.
then what's left they give over like over the counter tags, and
Mhm.
you can only shoot 1 buck with the gun.
Okay. Yep.
But if you draw a gun tag, you can still hunt with that gun tag with a bow.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
like I could go get a gun tag and shoot with, as long as I'm not on public, because the public rules are a little weird. But
Right.
like on private ground, I can still hunt because most of the public ground here is actually you get your gun tag and then you
Yeah.
actually draw into that public ground.
Okay. All right. So okay.
So it's
I
like
know
its own gun tag. And
Right.
so like if you draw into a public ground with your gun tag, then you can't hunt with that gun tag on private.
Anywhere else, pretty much. It's like it has to be on that public piece. Or it
Yeah,
has
because
to-
you're drawing into that public
Yeah.
ground.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
each
All right.
public piece is different and their rules. And like the place that I've been hunting up here, like I just call it like my backyard, basically. It's like 15 minutes
Mhm.
up the road. They don't have a lot of gun hunting. Most
Okay.
of the they have like one little section. They only give like, I don't even know, like 20 tags away, maybe.
Right.
And then the only other gun hunting that goes on in the public ground is handicap.
Okay. All right.
And so, and I'm down for that. So
Yeah. So I mean, with that, I mean, when you're hunting, like you have those rifle seasons, but I really want to talk about hunting pressure. It goes differently, and obviously with every state, like you are more pressured because more people are chasing after mature buck, like you are, right?
yes.
But then in Pennsylvania here, you have, during rifle, we have a lot more drives going on. You have
We don't have a lot of that.
tons of like the Amish, the Mennonite, like the area I hunt that I have a lot of big buck on. Well, I had a lot of big buck on camera last year. They put drives on almost every day out there. Now, like it's
How
like,
long is your guys' gun season?
it goes from, it'll come in actually this Saturday, so it'd be the 29th to the 13th. So about like 2.5 weeks of rifle season. And now that we have Sundays, like it's the whole time. So I mean that's nice. And I told my wife, I'm like, I'm taking off as much as I can during those 2.5 weeks. Like I already have days put in. I'm like, I'm going up north again. I'm going to my parents' camp this weekend, and then I took off random days during the week. I'm going to be calling in sick because I told my wife, I was like, I have 60 hours of PTO and I have 180 hours of sick time. I am using up as much as I can to go out.
I used all mine last week.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah, because I don't have a job no more. That's
Okay.
that's
Okay.
one way to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. That is one
If you
way to
lose
do it.
your
Yeah.
job, you got tons of time to hunt.
Yeah, yeah, that is very true. But so before we get into hunt, because I want to really give like people, like I've noticed that people like, oh, the top 5 ways to kill a mature buck, or like the top 5 this, top 5 that. Like I want to give people real world advice, kind of, and like tips on it. Maybe it'll kind of help me too. Like, okay, this is what I should be doing, right? Because when you're hunting, when you go through the whole archery season, you don't really have a good encounter or anything like that. You're like, your head gets like, what am I doing next? What am I doing next?
Wait till you hear this story.
And before we get to that, I want to hear this. I want to, because I've been keeping update with you and everything. We've been keeping in contact. And it's like,
Yeah,
you've been grinding it out hardcore.
This buck has beat me senseless since Halloween.
Yeah.
So we can jump into that if you want.
Let's do it, man. Let's break down, like, let's start from the beginning. Like how,
So
however you want to start.
how I first came about this deer is I was actually hunting. Remember, well, this 10-pointer from last
Yep.
year, late season.
Mm-hmm.
So same area, and I put a camera in there, and I didn't put it on cell mode. I
Mm-hmm.
just threw it in this. It's like a little island. Think of like an oak island off of a like a lake or a
Mm-hmm.
river kind of. It's a lake, but it's real long and skinny, so it's not like whatever. And then in between the like this island in particular is 10 acres, and then if you go maybe a quarter mile north east, just follow the river basically, there's another island that's about 15 acres, and then you go about another quarter mile, and then it's a big like 700-800 piece of public, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in between each one is like grass CRP that they actually cut lanes through, and guys come through and like quail hunt.
Yeah.
So it's like very broke up. It's thick, gnarly, nasty. Oh, I about spit in the wrong cup. That'd have not been good. Done that before. Um, it's thick, gnarly, nasty, like Russian olive and honeysuckle, and there's just little pin oaks in it, and then there's some white oaks and red oaks in like kind of the middle. So there's
Mm-hmm.
a few openings in them, kind of deal. But it's honestly brutal to hunt because you can't get high, and not that you need to, but like you
Mm-hmm.
can't really get in any trees, and then you can't cut anything on these on like the public. So like just figuring out where you can even shoot is like it's atrocious. Like
Yeah.
you get in there and you get two options, and if he don't do that, you're out of the game.
And
he
I'm
could
sure with pin oaks, like access itself, trying to get in there quietly is
Mhm.
also hard as hell to get in there.
This morning I was crawling on my hands and knees,
Yeah.
like just to get in there. Luckily it rained and it's been real foggy, so it was real wet and quiet, so I could at least get away with it. But I
Mhm.
mean, even the tiny 0.5, I'm catching branches because I'm like, whatever. So, anyways, was hunting him last year, so I just threw a camera in there and I honestly forgot about it. And I was scouting Halloween. I was scouting the big 800-acre piece. Okay. And there's like 4 or 5 different coves in there. And just what I do is I just go to the water, and it's been real low water. So I can just walk the edge, and I
Mhm.
just dive into the coves because it seems like around here, what I always find is a lot of the sign is laid down in those coves.
Mm-hmm.
And then like think of like cove, hill, cove.
Okay.
And then on that hill is thicket too, and that's where they bed. And then you'll have another buck bedding over here, and so like they meet in down there in those coves, and that's where they make all their signs. So you'll find scrapes. I don't ever see the big bucks on them.
With those little ones, those little hills, do you find that there's some kind of thermal action going on with that, or not really?
So in this particular place, yes, but it isn't like what you would have in the mountains.
Yeah.
It's the lake is a power plant lake, and so it's heated. And
Ooh,
so it
okay.
actually is muy bueno, like for hunting.
Yeah.
But the deer use it and they get it and like they understand. And like I've told people all the time, like I'm going to hunt this edge of this cove, and like, oh, you can't do that. The wind's gonna be blowing right in there. I'm like, not the way it works. Like you
Yeah.
think that, and like when you walk, if you walk, like let's just think like a road, and then I don't know 600 yards, and then the lake, and then between that 600 yards, it's none of the property that this is like big and wide. It's like narrow and long, right?
Mhm.
And so if you're walking on the road, the wind will be blowing what you think it is, and then you get to the lake, and it's pulling it to the lake because of
Okay.
that hot water like sucks it.
Yeah.
So it's actually it's a really cool thing once you kind of figure out how the deer use it,
Right.
but the deer understand it way better than I do.
They're smart
So,
creatures, man. Smart.
dude, for dumb animals.
Yeah.
So, I was scouting one of these coves, and I found this giant rubs. And I'm like, okay, like I need to be in this transition where they're going to come off this hill. And you can get lucky in getting them come off the coves, but they just do it real weird. And so I've kind of figured out where they bed and how they'll access it. And that's every deer is different, every spot's different, and it's all dependent on time of the year. Late season, they use it a little different than they do early, and so on. You don't even see them in the coves late season, except for in the morning. They'll go back to their bed and they'll come and hit it, like getting water, right?
Yeah.
So I found this big sign, and I'm setting up, and I don't know. I seen rack, but I don't know what it was. I'm getting set up, and I hear a stomp and I freeze, and I'm facing the tree and it's directly behind me. And I was climbing a tree and it had just like little bitty like stickers on it. And I was kind of popping the stickers off and they were making a little tack, and that kind of stuff don't bother me because of this exact situation. He heard it, thought it was a buck, and come down to see who was in his territory. And I did one of these and he bolted. And I seen rack, but there's 4 or 5 different bucks in there. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It could have been a 120-inch deer. I have no idea.
Right.
So I sat, seen nothing the rest of the night. I get out and I go to the truck and I'm driving home, and I about smoked this big 10-pointer like on the way out. Like, and I was like, oh, big, I'm on the phone. I'm like, big buck, big buck, big buck. She's like, oh my gosh, I'm yelling. And so I remembered, I was like, wait, I have a camera back there. And so like 2 or 3 days later, when I got back out there, I pulled the camera and this 10-pointer is all over it. And so I was like, oh, he's living here. Like, and he's been there for probably 3 weeks. So since like the middle of October, he's been in there.
Okay.
So I start hunting him. Probably the next day, I went to the more north island. So not the island I had the camera on. I went to the more north island, and I did pull that camera, so I don't have anything on it now or anything. Yeah. So I went to the more north island, and there's like fingers that run off of it, and in between each finger is a different CRP field. And I was on the top CRP field, and it kind of fades down, and then it goes into some private. And I seen him pushing other bucks off and working a doe. And so I'm like, all right, like I'm on him. Well, the next, probably, I don't know, within that week, I went back to the island. I got pictures of him, and there's like 2 ways in there. And of course, the one way I picked to go in there, he's bedded. I'm right on the edge of it. And so I kick him and he takes off, and I'm, really. And I go in there and sit, didn't see anything. Kind of kicking myself in the teeth. Like, I should have known, because I have pictures of him, which is actually cool. I have to show them. I'll send them to you.
Yeah.
I have like a whole probably 20 pictures of him bedding in front of the camera. And I'm talking like he's laid on the ground, looks like he's dead. I've never seen it before.
Laying
oh
down.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it was cool.
Yeah.
So I should have known, like, he's gonna be in there.
Yeah.
So I probably a week later, I go back out there and I'm gonna try the north end again, because it's like he's gonna be at one or the other, and then he works into some of that private, but that private's not very big. The woods on that private and what he uses is probably 6 acres total between like 2 different houses. So it's not very big. It's basically just people's backyards, but it's just got some timber, and it's out in the country. So it's got timber in it and thicket, but it's not like big timber or anything. So I hunt the big sign that morning. And then I'm like, okay, if he's not in here, then I'm going to go back over there. And I'm coming around the corner off of, basically, remember I said I was on the top finger? Well, I'm going to go to the bottom finger where I seen him the week before. Well, I kick him up with the doe, and he runs straight to the private. Yeah. And I'm like, and I'm kicking myself, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to get on this finger somewhere. Well, like, you can't. And I didn't really realize that, like, because you look at it and you see it from afar, and I've went down in there, but I'm terrible at like going in and like picking out a tree beforehand. I need to do it. I just don't.
Same. I'm the same way. Like I try and pick out a tree, but then it's come to the situation where you actually go in there and it's like,
is that where I wanted?
Yeah. There's just so many trees in the area that you're trying to hunt. It's like,
yep. And I always look at it as like, if I go and scout it and I'm like, oh, I can hunt this tree. Well, who's to say that when I come in there next that I'm 30, 40, 50 yards off of where I need to be. Yeah. And if I just go and run to that tree, then I'm not going to scout. Yep. I've done that plenty of times. And I'm like, why wasn't I over there? If I just would have walked 40 more yards, I had seen all this.
Yep.
So I kick him up and he runs off. And I'm like, well, I got to set up in this finger. Well, you can't get in the finger. There's nothing. And like, you're either on the ground and like, you can see through the finger. So you're just skyline between like, off the ground to like 5 foot, 6 foot high. And then if you get any higher than that, all the tree branches have fallen over. So if you get in the tree, you can't shoot out of it. So now you're like, you can shoot at the base of it and that's it. So you're like doomed. So I'm like, what are the odds of him circling back anyways? Because he was the one that seen me. She had no idea what happened. He seen me.
Yeah.
And so I picked out a tree. There's a tree in the middle of it. and there's like a cluster of them. Like I can get in that tree, I'll be super skylined. But if I can just be still and I can see him coming from a long way, I can, point the camera, hit record. And I've been practicing 60-yard shots. So if he gets within like 45 yards, 50 yards, like I feel pretty confident that I can. I'm not a huge distance shooter at deer, but like I'm tacking, so I feel pretty comfortable.
Right. Yeah.
And I got an arrow setup this year that's like built for that. So I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna try to scoot around and get over here. I couldn't get over there, and I couldn't get in this tree, so I was just mad. So I'm like, screw it. And I walked the main path out. And then as I'm walking out, I see a buck, and he stops and looks at me. And then I see the 10-pointer push him off, and that 10-pointer didn't know I'm there. And so I'm like, okay, I got to get in a tree. I got to get in a tree. Well, I can't find a tree anywhere on this edge. And he takes the doe and pushes her back over there. And by this time, it's like 30 minutes till dark. And I'm like, I'm done. Like, I'm going home. Screw this dude. And so that next morning, I'm going to go get in that cluster of 3. And this is, I don't know, November 12th, 13th, around that area. And so I go get in that cluster of trees, and I see a doe, and she's got a buck behind her, but I don't know what it is. I think it's him, but there's a couple nice bucks in there, and I could only see him from about 80 yards away. Well, she starts getting spooky, and she takes off. And she didn't see me from where she was at, and because I'm only getting glimpses of her, and I'm frozen. And so I'm like, what is going on? And so I'm sitting there, and I'm kind of hem-hawing, and then all of a sudden I start hearing mariachi music. Dead serious. And I'm like, what in the world? And I'm on the private public line, right?
Yeah.
I turn around, and they're building a pole barn in their backyard. And it's Mexican construction, and they're just and I'm like, oh my gosh. And they're loud, and it's dead calm. So I'm like, yeah, this ain't happening.
I remember that story.
Dude, I was hurting after that. I mean, like, all you could do is laugh, like, whatever, like my luck, but so anyways, I walk out of there, and I hunted him a few more times. And then last Wednesday, so 2 days before gun season, I'm on the north end of again, but I'm closer to the back of the property, like closer to the water than I am where I can actually see the private, but I'm far enough away from where they're building. You can still hear them, but I'm far enough away where I shouldn't booger them. And there's a big scrape that had definitely been tossed up. So I'm like, okay, I'm in it. And this is like when I said I was walking out and all those bucks were chasing the does, like that's where I'm pretty much at.
Okay.
Well, I walked in with a headache, and about 30 minutes, 40 minutes before dark, I was getting tunnel vision, and I had a migraine.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't do it anymore. Like I'm going to fall out of this tree, or getting down is going to be bad.
And then if you would have shot him, it's like, then with your migraine, it's like, it's not going to be.
Yeah. Then I'm really screwed.
Yeah. Yep.
So I took the L, got down early, and I was like, you know what? Like, it's the rut. I'm just going to go drive around. And if I don't see him, then maybe I'll see another deer, and I can get on him tomorrow. Well, as I'm leaving, I go to buy the south end of the property, and I see a doe cross the road, and then here he comes tailing ass after her. And I'm like, are you serious? And I watch him push her off all the way into the middle of the field and work her around. He went probably 1.5 miles in the middle of his field, just stopped, and he was just circling her. So I'm like, all right, he's going to be in that island tomorrow. I know it. Well, I went home. I slept off my migraine. That morning, it wasn't happening. I still didn't feel very well. And so I slept in. I go in the next evening, and the only thing I see is a little dinker basket. And I was in that little 10-acre island, right? And so I'm like kind of bummed, because I'm like, I know he's got to be here. And it's crazy that I'm in 10 acres, but you can't see very far. So like, I really could be within 60 yards of this deer and have no idea. It's just how it is. And he's got that place destroyed.
Okay.
I don't know if you've seen my story today, but that big rub, that's his. He's in there. Okay. So I'm like, all right. And that's where I had the pictures of him. So I know he's using it, that kind of deal.
That's his core. That's his main bedding area, it seems like.
Yeah. And I don't know if you watched the YouTube video that I made last night, but same thing. These big mature bucks, he's probably 4.5, 5. And he's a dominant buck in the area, and he don't need to leave. So why would he?
Yeah, exactly.
So, I'm within this 1/2 mile circle. I'm on him all the time.
Yes. Yeah. Sounds like it. Yeah.
and he's just beating me is what he's
Yeah.
doing and teasing me.
Yeah.
So this morning was the first morning that we could get back out. Yesterday had dad duties, and so we're gonna go after him this morning. I go sit the north property, or no, I sit the south property. My buddy sits the north property. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
we seen nothing. I kicked one deer getting into that island, and I'm not really sure if I spooked them. There's two of them, not one, and I don't know if it was chasing, but I feel like if they were chasing, I would have heard them coming and then
Mm-hmm.
go by me. It was
Mm-hmm.
like it started at like 20 yards away from me and come through. So
Yeah.
I don't really know. Like I said, it's wet, so they can sneak up on you. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, but I didn't see anything the rest of the morning, and that was kind of our plan. My buddy, I was like, look, like you go to that side, I'm gonna go to this side, and for the next like 2-3 days, one of us is gonna be there, and he's got to run into one of us.
Yep.
And that was kind of the deal.
Mm-hmm.
And so neither of us seen anything. We get down, the wind started to shift, so I actually had to get down earlier than I wanted to. And so we got down, and then this evening, I'm like, okay, well, if they weren't in any of these properties, then they're going to go to the north 800, which is exactly what this big 10-pointer did. He lived in those two islands, and then right about this time of year, he dipped off, and I never seen him again until I got one picture of him in December.
Okay.
And then he went right back to the bigger property and was working it because like the pressure had died off.
Mm-hmm.
Which was weird because this year it was like the opposite. There was no pressure on it until the last 2 weeks. All of a sudden there was trail cameras everywhere. That cove that I found those giant rubs in, there was 2 trail cameras, a new ladder stand, which they're not even allowed to have. And there's another ladder stand on the other side of it, and a new trail camera here. And I found another new cell camera, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like in the last like 2 weeks or week and a half, everyone is, and their mom has moved in. Well, they found all the big rubs, so they're like, there's one here,
Do you think it's mostly the non-residents too that are moving in there that are like they take their ruckcation, or like they tag that in their home state, and like, okay, now we got to take a ruckcation. We're going to go to Illinois and hunt there, and that's when you see all these cameras pop up and ladder stands and all that kind of stuff?
I think it's the private land guys.
Okay. All right.
But it could be because there are some guys that come from out of state or whatever.
Yep.
I don't see out of state guys hanging ladders, but maybe. I don't know. I've seen people do more illegal stuff, so who knows?
Yes. Yeah.
So, anyways, so what I ended up doing tonight is I went and hunted where I shot the smaller buck on accident. And I was like 45 yards away from there. I'm like, look, it's the same area that this dude used, same situation, same everything. So it's kind of I think I'm in the right. Well, so this is where it gets good. So I'm actually on my phone, and I ran out of storage. I've been filming my phone. And so I'm going through and deleting old pictures and whatever. And I hear like a crack, and I think bucks are fighting or something, or a tree fell. And I look up and I see a doe come running, I don't know, probably 100 yards in front of me. Like I'm in the timber, and then she was on the edge of like the grass stuff that I'm talking about, and like between the grass and the field, and she comes darting towards me into the thicket. And there's 2 of them, which I found out later, and they got right underneath me, and there was a buck running them around, but he never broke the thicket, so I have no idea what it was. So I'm sitting here like, okay, well, what am I going to do? Like, well, what about tomorrow? Like, if he's not here, there's action here. Do I just walk away because of all the pressure and, go somewhere else and come back to him later, throw some cameras up and figure out where he's going to be later on? Or, what am I going to do?
Right.
Because I pull my cameras out beginning of the season. And then, like I said, I forgot about that one. And so I pull most of them by the beginning of the season. They just don't, for me, it just doesn't do me any good. It makes my anxiety worse is all it does. And I'm sitting checking my phone all the time, which is dumb. So I pull all my cameras, and then what happens is like after that second gun season, I'll start putting them back out, and then I can see who survived. And then again, I ditch them. I just don't care. Once I find, okay, this location still got, a target animal, then I don't care about the camera anymore. And I go, do my own thing. Cause if like I said, if I start trying to figure out cameras, it makes it worse for me. I do understand I'd probably be more successful, or maybe successful faster if I ran cell cams throughout the season, but I just don't have fun with them like anymore. I don't. And like I'm not talking trash.
Mhm.
I don't want to be like, I got a picture of my big buck, and so I went in that day. I don't want that to be the story. Like, I
Yep.
just don't. So, like, I will
Yep.
avoid that at all costs. If it happens, it happens, and I'm not mad about it or anything. And like, great, like I was successful, so I'm not mad. And to me, a lot more went into it than just getting a picture and going and hunting them, especially on public. Like, it just don't work
Yeah.
that way. Like,
Yep.
it's like a 5% chance you're going to get a buck patterned on public with a trail camera. Like, you get lucky if that
Mhm.
happens, I think.
Yeah, because you're not the only one hunting that on public. Like, it's more possible with private land. Like, if you have private land, you're the only one hunting that, and you know where to go, you know when to access a certain spot and all that kind of. Public, it's like you can have the best access you possible, but Joe Schmo
Was
has
in there
terrible
yesterday.
access and blew it out. Right?
Yep.
It's like, yeah, I'm thinking about, I had pretty much all standard, and I'm thinking about pulling all my standards for the
Yeah.
most part.
Well,
It's like,
so I think that next year I'm probably not going to pull them. I'm just going to turn the cell signal off
Mm.
and keep and even use them to go. And like I told, like I literally told my buddy the other day, this morning, I said, you know what?
Mhm.
I'm going to go buy like 6 Tascos and
Yep.
I'm going to just flood this island because I want to know how, when, where they're using it. And then I'll pull
Mhm.
them all because I won't care. But I just want to run a season of just like 6 cameras in this 10-acre piece. And
Mhm.
just because I've gotten 2 big bucks in there now. And
Yeah.
so they're obviously grow there and get big there somehow. And
Mhm.
so I just want to figure out, how do the does use it? What winds do they like? How are they accessing? And then I'll pull the cameras, and then I have that knowledge for next
Yep.
season. Like, okay, on a south wind, I can't do this, or I can do this, or whatever, and kind of use it that way.
Yeah, especially if when they bed there, and when they go there the most, right?
Yeah, and just like I like one thing that I really do like cell cameras for, that I tell people, like, if I hunt cell cameras a lot, what I'm doing is like I'm paying attention to the timestamp. And so
Mhm.
it's like, if I'm getting regular pictures of does, well, now I know like at 4 p.m., that's when my deer are getting up and moving. And then that's
Mhm.
kind of, I might not even hunt near that camera, but I know by 4 p.m., the deer should be on their feet because I've watched it, and I think that's a really good tactic that guys
Mhm.
probably maybe aren't doing, but I definitely pay attention to.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, anyways, nothing happened the rest of the night. Nothing happened. I got down and went home.
Yeah.
I'm driving by the south property, and there's guys outside on a four-wheeler, and they had their headlamps on, and I just seen him move, and I seen tines in his headlamp, and I was like, no, is that him? And I pull back. I'm like, hey man, did you shoot a big one? And he's like, yeah man, it's a big 10-pointer if you want to come see him. And I'm like, oh
Oh
no.
no.
And so he's like, have you been hunting him? I'm like, yeah. And he goes, were you in here this morning? I was like, yeah. And he was like, I seen you guys. And he goes, I didn't see anything this morning either. And he goes, I was actually half tempted to not go tonight. He's on the private land, that little bitty section.
Oh,
And that's where he shot him.
on the private right there.
Right there. He said he watched him in the field that we were in this morning for probably an hour and a half pushing a doe around. And then he finally hopped the fence and went over, and he got a shot at him.
So this morning when you guys were set up there, he was out in that field that you guys couldn't see.
He was on the private land.
Okay.
And I was in the thicket, and my buddy was on the field.
Okay.
So he seen my buddy get up and go back, and he got up and went back at the same time he did.
Oh man.
Yeah. You thought I shot him though, didn't you?
Yeah, when you sent that, I was like, oh my gosh, you got a big buck down, baby.
I know. So my buddy was hunting with me this morning. I sent him that picture, and he's like calling me, dude, and I'm like, yeah, don't get too excited, bud.
So with that now, so the 10 points down, he's no longer huntable.
Yep, he gone.
So what's kind of like, I guess, are you still gonna be hunting that property? Is there another one on that property that you would shoot?
No, not that I've seen. So where all that giant sign that I was hunting when I first, like, that was Halloween night, right? There's a giant in there, and for sure that's why everyone's moved in there. And I think, like, I know how they use that area, and even the guys that live really close to it aren't going to see that buck. I've ran into 2 different giants in that exact section, and over the last, well, hunting him honestly is what really kind of taught me what these bucks do there. And hunting that giant sign, I figured it out. You're not gonna see him. Like,
Yeah.
he ain't gonna come out in the middle of the day. He's too close to a big neighborhood back there, so he's not popping out. And so I think what happened is that's why I think it's the private land guys that have moved in, put ladder stands and trail cameras and all that, because I think now that he's pushing does around, and he's probably popped out somewhere and someone seen him, and so now they're hunting him. And but I think that's a completely different deer. Like, I don't even think they're the same deer, because the sign that he's laying down doesn't even touch the sign that I found up there.
Really?
Oh, dude, not even close. I keep pointing at him. It's the same deer. Like, literally, he's identical to that.
Yeah.
He's the other one just got longer beams and shorter tines.
Yep.
And a little less mass. He went 151. I think that other deer, he'll go 145. Like, so he's close, very close.
Right.
But anyways, the 10-pointer is laying down sign at like my waist and my knee, like, thigh area. The stuff that I'm finding on the north property is at like my chest.
Oh, okay.
And it's on trees like this. Like, it's ridiculous. And so that's what I think happened. I think someone finally seen that big buck in the field and then went back there looking for him and found all of his sign, and now threw cell cameras up all over the place, and they got the orange markers to their stand and 2 different ladder stands, and I was like, So no, I mean, honestly, lick my wounds, and I will be honest. I'm praying in the tree stand all the time, and I was like, man, God, like, I want this deer, like, and I don't normally try to pray for like to shoot a buck, because why does God care? That's just kind of how I look at it. I mean, sure, he wants whatever, but but just after chasing him and kicking him and seeing him and him just being all over the place and just whooping my ass, like, I wanted him, And so I genuinely feel like, being a public land hunter and not running the cell cameras and stuff like that, like, what are the odds that I'm leaving and see him? Like, you know what I mean? And so I would have come back tomorrow thinking like, okay, well, where's he at? And then I've been chasing a ghost, and I don't know that guy from Adam. I've never really talked to him. And so, like, now, for one, like, I got his number. So, like, it'll be nice to be able to kind of communicate with him with what's going on out there, and that kind of stuff. But, to know that he's dead, and being able to, okay, like, I can move on at least. I'm not in the back of my head like, okay, am I just being a coward by going and hunting somewhere else because I can't kill this deer when he's been all over the place, And so I do genuinely feel like that's definitely, in my eyes, like a blessing and a God thing, that, like, I can move on. And
absolutely.
So yeah, I mean, other than licking my wounds at the moment, I mean, my plan now is to go do some historical guessing checks. So I'm just going to go to some spots that I know have been good to me in the past. Remember last year when I couldn't get my bow drawn? I'm going to go in there in the morning. And we're going to, I've been tempted to go where I shot the triple beam, but I haven't been in there except one time early. It was like later October. And it was like dead. Like, there was no big sign, nothing in there. So I'm kind of not really feeling going back. And it's a 45-minute drive versus the public that's around here is like, the furthest away from me is like 25 minutes. So I'm just gonna, go back to just normal right now, like rut tactics. I genuinely feel like this is the time where you're gonna see a giant do the stupid 2.5, 3-year-old mistakes. And so that's what I'm just gonna kind of capitalize on. And tomorrow I'm gonna hunt all day. I'm not gonna sit in one tree all day, but I'm gonna hunt that spot. If I see something, make a move and hunt the rest of the day. If I don't see anything, then I'm gonna hop down and I'm gonna go to where I was hunting some big bucks early season and go back in there. And I got a buddy that's been hunting it, and he's been seeing one of the bucks I had on camera. Actually, one of the bucks that busted me early season. He's seen him twice in the last like 2 weeks.
Okay.
So I know he's around, and I'm assuming if he's around, then a couple other ones, because it's one of those spots where it's like, you see it and you're like, man, there's got to be guys hunting here. And then when you get to it, you realize like there's zero access. Like
Okay. All right.
well, it's actually easy access, but it's
Yeah.
stupid far. Like,
Okay.
and so you either have to know somebody on private to be able to get back there easily. You have to have some sort of boat access to get to it,
Yep.
or like you're walking 6 miles on a hiking trail to get back to him.
Yeah.
And like I know a couple easements in there that they don't put on Onyx that are public, but I've talked to game wardens, and over the years I've hunted there. I actually shot this buck. It was my first public land buck out of this area.
Okay.
So so I actually take that 6 miles and I put it in. I got it 1.5 miles, which is lucky. But there's an easement that nobody knows about. It looks like it's a driveway.
Okay.
And it's not a driveway. It is, but there's actually public access to it, and so you can't park on it. And that's what people don't. So you got to kind of park somewhere else and then walk to it. So if I don't shoot at something in the morning, then I'm gonna go bomb in it and hunt it tomorrow evening and probably Thanksgiving morning, and then Friday dad duties, and then this weekend I haven't touched my private yet. So we're like, well, I've touched some of my private, the ones that's closer to my house. I shot a doe off of one, and then I've been watching tons of deer, but nothing worth shooting. And they're both of the properties that I have up here are tiny. Like one's 3 acres, the other one's like 4. So it's like nothing crazy. That's what I've been hunting here. And so I'm gonna bomb to my really good spots where I shot this buck here. And then I've missed on a couple. Well, last year when I passed that buck.
Yep.
And I dropped my release.
Yep.
I'm gonna go to that property this weekend.
Okay. All right.
So, which that buck got killed October as well.
Oh man.
He was a stud.
Yeah.
Yeah, he turned into a big 10-pointer, and he still had the real dark rack and everything. He was. I was really hoping to get on him, and my cousin texted me, and he goes, "What do you think of this?" And he's got video of the deer like hunched over, like walking out of a field roll. And I'm like, what? Did he gut shot him? And he was like, yeah, he just got shot. And the next morning they sent me a picture of him in the back of the trailer. I'm like, man. But
yeah, I mean, that's with that 10-point you were chasing, like that's with what you just told me. It's like you could have spent the whole season chasing after him and not know that he's gone, right?
Yep. I mean,
like,
eventually I would have put like the cell cameras back out after gun season and stuff. Which I don't have to pull them there because there's not allowed. The guys on private, I guess, can gun hunt. This guy shot him with the bow, but yeah, after gun season, I was gonna put another camera out there and hopefully get a picture of him.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's a blessing and a curse. It's weird how things work out like that. Everything happens for a reason. I always say that. So like, you driving by there right after, like it's pure luck that you just saw that, and you
it's a God thing. It's like 100%.
And now it's like now you can go. See, I find it so like chasing after, like I chased after that one buck this year, like was trying to go after him, figure him out. And I found myself going back in the same like areas that he was last year, when really I should have been doing what you're doing, like scouting and finding him instead of like trying to like go off historical data from the previous year, because the crop changed, the water changed, everything changed. It was like, and now I don't know if he's still alive or not, because I never got another picture of him after last season. So it's like someone could have shot him in the early season, but yet with that big a buck, you'd think someone would have posted something about that on one of the pages, because or someone would have heard about it, all that kind of stuff. But like, you know, it's kismet that, you know, you were able to see him and put the final chapter to rest with that buck.
Yeah, it's a God thing. I don't know. There's no other way, because I'd be chasing a ghost. And like I said, I would have moved on. Because I didn't hunt him exclusively. I mean, I was hunting him the hardest because I was getting the most action with that spot and everything. And I was like, I don't stay married to deer. I honestly hunt pressure. And so knowing that where he was at, there was like zero pressure, and I knew where the pressure was coming from and how they were doing it. And so I could hunt around it. So that was really why I stuck on him for so long. And obviously, and seeing him and stuff like that makes, you know, but it would have ate me up all season, or like I'd go even today, like genuinely tonight, I after not seeing him this morning, I was like, it's after gun season. There's private ground. He could have ran off and got shots on another piece. There's other
Mhm.
private around that he could have taken a doe 3 miles away and got shot. Like,
Yeah.
or been completely gone because he's on to new does. Like, this is
Mhm.
that time of year where they're definitely going to be making those big moves. And so I was like, I literally like not flipped a coin, but in my head I was like, okay, do I go to the bigger chunk and see if he's there,
Mhm.
and kind of try to get ahead of that, like you were saying, like the historical. This is kind of what they do,
Mhm.
or do I go to? I was going to go to the spot, like the guess and check spot that I'm going to in the morning. I was going to
Yeah.
go there, and then I had another spot that I haven't touched yet that I know pretty well that I was going to go just scout my way in and hunt. And I was like, I told myself, I was like, that deer's got to be alive. He's
Yeah.
got to. Like, there's too many places he can go hide. And I wasn't worried about that private land guy shooting him because one of my buddies, his neighbor's his best friend, and they
Mm.
have a lease somewhere. And he's like, "Oh, you probably won't have to worry about that guy because he's usually hunting with my neighbor on this lease." I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, okay, well, good." And then coming to find out, he shot him. But nonetheless, like it dictated where I was going to go tonight because I didn't know if that deer was alive, dead, moved on, or whatever. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Um, so now having a clear slate, I definitely can. It does suck not having any leads,
Yeah.
but it's also freeing at the same time where I'm like, okay, like now I can just rely on going back to figuring it out and shooting a surprise buck and being pumped.
And those man, I think I've never really I was never able to target a specific buck and like shoot that buck, right? So like every buck I've shot is kind of been like surprise, and man, it's just like I mean, I don't know the difference between like if when shoot a target buck or if you shoot like a surprise buck, but like man, like shooting a buck you have no idea he's around. It's just
Oh, it's
it's so
exhilarating.
yeah, it's like oh my god, I had no idea he was here. And
Yeah, and when we had a conversation about that, like with the
Mhm.
cell camera things, it's like I genuinely feel like nowadays so many people are like attached to these deer and they know what's there, and it's like
Mhm.
I thoroughly enjoy going new places and having an adventure. And if
Mhm.
I see one that I'm willing to shoot, like for the most part, I'm hunting areas that I know the potential. So
Mhm.
like I'm not gonna go shoot, a smaller buck or whatever off of a random property. But like, well, I mean, even like the triple beam or whatever,
Yeah.
like I scouted that spot. There was a big sign in there. I knew there was a big deer. I didn't know anything about the deer and do nothing. I had no cameras there, no nothing. And I was getting my butt whooped last year. I was tired of on my private ground watching a big buck like on the neighbors. And I said, screw it. I'm gonna go where I scouted and I'm gonna try to figure it out. And I got genuinely, I got lucky in the sense of like the first sit, I was correct. But
Mhm.
like some of my favorite hunts that I've been on is where like we went into a spot for 3 days, and first day we were on deer, but we weren't in the money, and we make a
Mhm.
move, and then all of a sudden, okay, there's a target buck. Like we got to hunt him for the next couple days, and
Yep.
then that next sit, that next morning, you make a little bit of an adjustment, and boom, now you killed him.
Yep.
Like target buck, kind of that way, but
Yep.
not. It's very much a found a buck, we're gonna hunt him, and hopefully we kill him in the next couple days, and then if
Yep.
not, we're moving on. And that's
Yeah.
basically where I'm at now, and I'm bummed, you know what I mean? Because I
Oh
would have
yeah.
loved to
Yeah.
wrap that tag, and that's my plan. Like I wanted to like, hey, shoot this deer. He's not the biggest buck I'll ever shoot, or whatever, but great deer. I mean, you've seen the picture. He's
Mhm. Mhm. Oh yeah.
and so I was like, I'll tag him, and then that'll free me up to where like I can go back to just having, not that I wasn't having fun doing that because I was.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, like that adventure side and being shocked at what just come up the hill, and you know what I mean? And you don't
Mhm.
know what you shot till you walk up on it. And
Yep.
that's a blast.
Oh yeah. Oh, big time. And I think that's kind of what I mean. That's what rifle season here is in Pennsylvania. Like that 100% is that like surprise factor because like when you put on those drives on in Pennsylvania, you don't know what's
Yeah.
going to come out of that laurel, that thicket, or whatever you're pushing out. And I think that ties in perfectly to like hunting the pressure on
Yep.
that buck. Because you knew there wasn't a lot of pressure, and then all of a sudden pressure started moving in, and that's when you like
Did you feel more pressure then at that point when you saw them, or were you like, they're just ladder stands. I'm not too worried about them, like you said, like, or did you feel that pressure just a little bit?
It's hard to say, no or yes or no. Anyway, I get annoyed by and I shouldn't, but the moment I see cell cams, I get bummed.
Yeah,
And to be fair, like once I get to the truck and think about it, I'm like, yeah, whatever.
yeah,
Like, and not in a cocky way, because I've explained this to my buddies. Like, that sounds like really arrogant. I'm like, I don't mean it this way, because it's definitely not. And I feel like this is what I have to tell myself, like, to
Mhm.
keep me in the game. But like, I look at where you see these cell cams and you see these ladder stands and you see this kind of stuff, like, they're not hunting like me.
Right.
And like, that's just like, that's what I have to tell myself. And for the most part, I'm correct. Like,
Mhm.
most of the guys are using the easy access, doing the easy thing and doing this and that. And like, that cove that they all of a sudden like bombed into, right?
Mhm.
I was parking a mile away at a different parking lot, going to the water and using the water all the way back and sneaking in. And that was the only time I seen deer. If I
Yeah.
came in from the road the easy way and walked 30 yards to, like, there's a parking lot, you walk down the road and then you bomb in 40 yards and that's where it all is at. That's what those guys are doing. And though, if you walk in that way, you see all the trails that they're using right there, and they bed in areas to watch those guys come
Mhm.
in. When I come in the back way, they'll sit up on those hills and they won't see me, because I sneak in a certain, I kind of tuck myself into the corner a little bit. So like, I don't walk into the mouth of the cove. I kind of get in the corner of it, and then I walk up the hill on them, and I'm up on the hill with them. And so
Mm.
they're looking down at that cove and I'm up on the hill with them. And so then they'll get up and move to the cove, and I'll get my shot of them going to the cove or coming. They'll watch that cove in the morning, they'll go get water, and they'll come back up, and I'm in position.
Yeah.
Um,
That kind of goes in line with like where I'm hunting at. Um, it seems like their biggest movement is like straight up and down in the
yeah,
mornings
yeah,
on this mountain, because this mountain runs, all these mountains run the same way. So there's not really those like topographic features that you look for in like hills where they have like the thermal hubs and they have all these different mountains, the ranges dropping down, all that kind of stuff. It's the mountains run, I believe it's northeast to like southwest. It's a straight line mountain with little draws going down it, and their biggest movement seems to be up and down. And this one guy last year, I forget his name off the top of my head, but he got a really nice buck in there, and he even reiterated that to me. He was like, "Hey, I'm no longer hunting this area." He found me based on the podcast, so he was like, "Hey, I'm no longer hunting the area. I just want to give you a little tip." He said that they also are moving up and down. Their biggest movements in the morning, up and down, or up the mountain in the morning. And he was like, if you approach the spot that you want to get to from the side, so like
yep,
come in further down from where you want to set up, but loop in and make do 1,000 yards or 500 yards, get in there. That's how he was able to put down this really nice buck, because he
yep,
was like, I cut off their movement coming up the mountain, and I was able to make that trek in there. And like you do, it's like this ties into that pressure, right? So like I found that you have to really scout how other people are hunting too. So like
yeah,
you find these hang-ons, you find these ladder stands, you find all the cameras too, and it's like, how, if you think about a person, the normal person, right? How they will want to hunt. So the normal person isn't going to put all this time and effort into getting to a certain spot because they just want to get there, they want to get set up and leave it at that. But if you think about it, like, the deer are going to be making their way around that person as well. So
yeah,
like, you don't want to do that. You want to set off them too on top of
yes,
the sign. So
yep.
it's like,
Yeah, you can hunt in their ladder stand and kill a deer. I just did it. I came in there, and that ties to like what I think. Like, when you asked me about this podcast earlier, I was kind of going over my head. I think just like my biggest rule of thumb is just access.
mhm,
It's just, if you can trick those deer to think that no one came in there,
mhm,
then you're in the money. And however you have to do that, you just have to be more creative about how you're getting in there. I've even done stuff and I've been successful. I haven't killed anything this way, but I have had opportunities, or just, if you want to say deer in general,
Mm-hmm.
is I actually go in the main trail, and then I'll say they're up closer to the road or wherever I'm hunting, right? And I'll kind of figure out, where do I kick deer coming on and off this? And then what I'll do is I'll walk down it. And a lot of times, if you kick the deer, they'll run 50, 60 yards away from you, and then they're coming
Mm-hmm.
right back to it. And I'll J hook back. So they
Mm-hmm.
thought I went way in there, and they're going to get up and they're going to move towards my truck or towards the ag field across the street of which I came from. And what I did is I got up, I got the wind in my face and circled all the way back around them. And then I came and posted here when, so if they're, up close to the road,
Mm-hmm.
I'll go in the normal way and I'll come down the water, circle back around and get in the thicket with them. And they're like, oh, he went that way, we're good. And they'll get up and they'll come right by me going to the field. And they had
Yep.
no idea anyone came in there because I came in different.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like a lot of people are thinking too, like to reiterate, like the whole being creative thing, I'll get in areas like deer do, and people don't want to do that. And yes, you run risk of them smelling your ground scent. And it's hit and miss, I feel like, with deer. And so you got to know your area, got to know your deer. If you can't get away with ground scent, then don't do this. But
Mm-hmm.
like, I'll go in the same trail that they use.
Mm-hmm.
I'll walk the same trail as them, try to be quiet, keep the wind in my face, whatever I got to do. And I'm all like, everyone's walking this path. Well, the deer have a parallel trail. Well, I'll get on that parallel trail and I'll sneak my way through there, with this tiny stand or whatever. And I'm just kind of weaving through, and I'll get set up on that trail for them to come out of it. I don't like to do it in the morning so much because it's very unpredictable, at least where I'm at, which trail they're going to use. But in the evening when they're already set up in there and I know where they're at, like, and then they just think a deer moved in. And odds are I've had more encounters over the last 2 years of especially bucks, like this time of year in the rut, of them thinking it's a buck. And so they got a doe in there and they're going to come to you like, hey buddy, I'm in here. And then they realize it's me and I've messed it up by then already. But
Yeah, that is one good. The trails are definitely one thing, because like I did that up at Ruck Camp. So like I had this younger buck, Alabama 11, walk right in front of me at an angle above this laurel, and I like at 11:30 I got down. I was like, I want to see where he came from, and the trail that he came on was like a heavy beaten down trail. So I walked that down, and how they move here in the mountains is probably a little bit different probably than moved in Illinois and in the ag and little hills like that. I found that those heavy beaten down trails are like does and those young bucks. The young bucks, because they don't know where the does are yet, they're still trying to figure that out during this time frame. So they're just going to use those heavy beaten down trails to help them travel better. But those ones there, I will walk all the time. It's the ones like it's the very faint ones that are below it or like that intersect with that. Those are the ones I'm going to try and stay off of. So like if I'm walking on that heavy trail and I see like a very faint trail coming kind of up the mountain, going like crossing through that heavy trail, I'll be like, okay, I'm going to try and step over this as far as I can, not to lay any scent on that. Cause that's, I don't, in the evenings, they'll come down with the thermals, or like the buck that I hit in the ass. He actually was coming on the bottom behind me at the very bottom, kind of like between the cut and the wide open. And, there was a bunch of scrapes, there was rubs right there, all that kind of stuff. But yet he was never actually on a trail. If he was on a trail, it was a very faint trail at best.
Yeah, not until night. And I think that's why guys get a bunch of night pictures like, oh, my deer don't move through there except for at night. And I'm like, yeah, he is. Your camera's pointing at that main trail and he's using an off trail that he can scent check that trail instead of having to walk it. And that's what big bucks do.
Yeah.
And I just think that like when it comes to pressure, I just think like I said, access is everything, but like just being creative and you got to be positive because like you said, like, I ran into all this pressure. Like, how do I feel about it? It genuinely, like there's days you're cussing it and you're like, I'm spending $5,000 on a lease. Like I'm over it. You know what I mean? And so Yes, but I think in a lot of ways, like you just got to stay positive, and that's where I've just started to like, okay, well, and that's where, like I said, my buddies are, oh, Mr. Cocky, whatever, I'm like, no, like genuinely, I just have to think, like, do you think that that guy with the ladder stand went and parked at that parking lot and
Mhm.
walked to the water and walked a mile and a half down the water's edge to get in here when he could have taken 50 yards? And it's silent, like it's a very
Mhm.
easy trail to get in there. Them deer already know you're there. They watched you do it. They heard you do it. And a lot of times, like if you're just on that trail, you might not even bump them. They heard you.
Mhm.
And like they heard you walk by and they're like, okay, like someone's in there. I'm going to go the opposite way. And it could have been a deer, but they're
Yeah.
going to get up and go the other way because that's a human trail, or they've known humans to do that. And so I just think like being positive and creative and just not really letting it bother you.
Mhm.
And the saying like know when to hold them, know when to fold them. Like you got to
Mhm.
know when to walk away.
Yeah.
And then I also think like once you start seeing the pressure, then it's time to like go find like,
Mhm.
okay, well, if this was how the pressure's going, I've just found that my big bucks here don't go nowhere. They
Yeah.
just use it. They're just very much educated,
Mhm.
and they're not mule deer. Mule deer are very finicky. They do not want to be around humans. They are very flighty. They. You put in a town, an apartment building, they're gone. Like they don't
Mhm.
ever want to smell you, see you, hear you. Whitetail live in your backyard, and they'll just come in at night. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And
Yep.
even if you're hunting him in your backyard, they'll just come in at night.
Yep.
And so are they moving somewhere in the day though? Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you just have to find, where, you know what I mean, that is. And
Mhm.
and if think about it, like if you were a buck, how would you use this to not hit this pressure or to be aware of the pressure? Or how are you, because like something that like we had a discussion over, me and my buddy were talking about like scent and wind and stuff like that, and he's like, how come sometimes like you have bad winds but you'll still hunt it? And I said sometimes this is very very very, I don't even know how to like, just dependent on a whole bunch of different things, right?
Mhm.
But I don't know what the word I'm looking for. But anyways, like if I get in there and the wind's kind of bad, sometimes I'll just stay.
Yeah.
And you hear this all the time, like, well, that buck was walking with the wind straight to his back, and he did this, and I don't even know why he'd be bedding there with this wind, and I've seen it. And I'm like, why in the
Mhm.
world is a deer bedding like that? He can't smell nothing.
Yep.
And then one day I literally just was like a thought process that I had, and I was like, well, do you think you know what all that deer has seen in those woods? Because you don't. And
Mhm.
so, what does he want to smell? He might not care to smell everyone that walks down that trail because he can hear you or whatever it is, but he wants to smell that thicket over there. Because
Mhm.
one time there was a guy in there that shot at him, and it makes no sense for
Yep.
him to bed that way, but he's smelling that thicket, and that's
Mhm.
the thicket that he's scared of.
Yep.
When all the other deer are gonna not even close to where he's at because and that's so hard to determine. You'll never be able to figure stuff like that out.
No.
And I think that explains a lot of weird big buck bedding and weird big buck movement because guys are like, well, that doesn't make sense. They're not gonna bed with the wind to their nose. They're not gonna do that. Yeah,
Mhm.
he will. If he wants to watch them bottoms because he needs to move through those bottoms and he can't smell it, but he's scared shitless of it, he'll go sit up there with the wrong wind and watch those bottoms.
Yep.
Like, and that's
Sometimes
go
go ahead.
ahead.
Sometimes it's more about like the view that they have, right?
Yeah.
Like they'll know like that wind can be coming from somewhere that they feel completely safe from. But this access here is just so if someone would access that and they weren't bedded that way, that person could probably sneak up on them and be able to shoot them without them knowing. And that's probably why they do that for the most part. And it's
Well,
probably a good access spot for a person.
well, and it's the same analogy of like if you're sitting in your living room and you can see the kitchen,
Yep.
do you care that you can't smell it? As a deer,
Right. Yep.
you've been watching the kitchen. You ain't going to be scared to go walk in there in the dark or even in the daylight because you've
Yeah.
been watching it. You've been able to see it. Now you
Mhm.
can smell the bathroom because, a burglar one time came in there, but you've seen the kitchen all day.
Yeah.
So if
Yeah.
the wind's completely wrong in the kitchen, you don't care because you've been watching it. And
Yep.
like that 10 pointer, when I shot the smaller buck,
Mhm.
they all had the wind to their back. Completely, it kind of baffled me where they kind of looped around in, because I kind of figured they'd loop in a different way, even just to scent check this one little section, and they didn't. And
Yeah.
I came in such an awkward position that the main trail that they were watching, they could see. And so they knew no one was in there. And so they got up and walked through it. And he was walking down a tractor path wide out in the open, completely like unprotected.
Yeah.
And I don't see big bucks on the edges of like fields and stuff like that, except for during the rut. And he did it in January.
Yeah.
And it was because I figured out where they bed in there. They can watch that access path. And so whatever the wind was good for that bed, but he could also watch right there. So when he got up and he wanted to go to that field, he's seen everything right there anyways. So he don't need to smell it.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. I mean, that's one thing. Like I found a lot of beds last winter scouting. The beds were kind of in a weird spot. And I was like, I never thought like a deer would bed in this spot. And like, I listened to, there was an episode with, there's Penn State. Penn State did a bunch of studies on like collared deer. And it was actually very interesting. I never actually watched the videos and I never read the articles before. And I think not many hunters have, right? Like a snow deer did a study. They just wait to figure it out themselves. But pretty much breaking it down during this rifle season, I'm going to be hunting probably the steepest terrain that I can. Like if you put on X, right, it's going to be that red, that orangish type. Because like when you're archery hunting, you're always looking for those benches. You're looking for those benches to hunt. You're looking for that flat terrain that they can travel easily. And now the pressure's on. Like you have probably like 200,000 to 500,000 more people in the woods now, just rifle hunting, right?
Yep.
Like go to that steep cover, go to those places that is kind of overlooked that you would like, a deer would never be in this area, right? And just do that.
Had a dog in.
But like, so now I'm like going on X on that slope angle, and like I gotta find this area, and like I'm also trying to not only do that, but like where are people accessing from? Right? Like where would the normal Joe Schmo access from to walk in this trail to get to a spot that they can push out easily? Because like, let's face it, like I don't want to be judgmental here, but like a lot of us who are archery hunters are in much better shape than people who are just purely rifle hunters.
Sure.
And you know, they're gonna have on their layers, they're gonna have on their orange, you know, full jacket, full pants. They're gonna be walking through with their base layers on too, and just trying to push things out. They're going to be overheated. They're going to be, you know, taking their time to do things, all that kind of stuff. And it's like, I don't think they'd want to walk this steep hill, even if it is close to access. Now that buck or doe, whatever, can be looking down at the access spot and be like, I can see who's coming in and out.
Yeah. And they don't even need to run from it. They can just see it.
Yeah.
I've noticed that with big bucks is they don't even get up. They'll poke their head up and be like, oh, okay. And they'll chill out. And now you get too close to them or make them uncomfortable, then they're darting. But, you know, for the most part, they don't. And I just, to your thing on like being in shape, like, I think that, so for me here, it's get away from, like my big rule of thumb with pressure is get away from where you can go in there and hunt with a climber.
Yep.
If you can hunt with a climber in there, odds are he's not walking through it.
Yeah.
It's not completely true, obviously, because there's a lot of big bucks that get killed out of climbers. There's this guy, I'll turn you. If I could ever get a hold of him and get him on a podcast, and I want to get on this podcast with him because he is a G. I'm not even kidding. He's an Asian guy that hunts out here, and he's got a wall full of 70s, 80s, 60s. He passed 160-inch deer. Showed me pictures of it like last week, and was like, "Yeah, I'm after a 210 back there." I'm like, "What?" And he was like, "Yeah, man." And he's so cool. So his name's Lee.
Okay.
And when I see him,
by the way, that's a typical Asian name, I feel like.
Oh yeah, he's so cool. And so we seen him one time fishing on the bank. He's a big fisherman too, and we were like, Lee, and he goes, like from Rush Hour. Yeah. So he's really cool. If I ever get a hold of him, man, like, but he hunts out of a climber and he kills monsters.
Mm-hmm.
But I've also seen some of his setups, and they're not like typical like climber setups. And
Yeah.
he'll hunt 4 foot off the ground, and just he's using it as a platform to be able to sit his stuff on it and stuff like that. But if you can get away from, you know, just your average and typical, and I always like go back to like sports, and like we've had this conversation where it's like, if you're, I look at hunting as just like a big professional sport, like, and there's levels to it, don't get me wrong, but like there's guys that are in the NBA, and then there's Kobe, you know what I mean, and then there's Jordan, and then there's Larry Bird, you know what I mean, they're different, and they don't do it the same, they don't look the same, they treat it differently, they're in the gym, they're thinking about this stuff. And like, I got a buddy, he's an absolute killer. He'll kill the first thing that walks in front of him, but he's an absolute killer. Doesn't give a shit at all. He's taking beers to the woods. Like, he's going to have a good time. He'll sit on the ground. He'll be 30 foot in the air, 2 foot in the air. Like, he's going to shoot it with a gun, a bow, a spike. He going to eat it. And he's a kill. Don't care about the wind, smoking cigarettes on the way in. And like, he gets it done every year. And then like, he went hunting with me a couple times last year, and he was like, bro, how is this fun for you? And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, did I just come out here have a good time? Like, I'm trying to have some beers with the boys and see some deer. And luckily we live in a great area, and he'll shoot a really big one every once in a while. Like, he's got a couple 150s and like a big 170s. Like, he'll get in on them every once in a while, but like, he's got those on his wall. And this year he shot like 110-inch, like 8-pointer and a spike. Like, he don't care. And it's like, dude, I when I seen that buck and him do something, there's just something different about me that's like, okay, like, why did he do that? Where did he come from? How do I get on that movement? Is he going to do it again? Why did he do that? Like, is there a certain time of year that he did it? And like, I want the info so then I can filter out and do it on purpose. And I want to be in the position, and I want to shoot the big buck. And you know, there's deer up here that are dead that like I wouldn't have shot if I would have just been setting up in my normal spot and him come through. But like, I figured the spot out. I knew the trail they were going to come in on, and that, you know, buck did it. And, you know, he might've been 120, but I was jacked not because I shot a 120. I was jacked because it worked. Like, oh, I knew the wind. I set up this way. I knew they were going to come this way. I knew he was going to bed here, and this was going to be, and it worked. And you're like, that's so rewarding to me. And I think your average and normal hunter don't, and there's nothing wrong with it. Like, I'm not saying that at all, but your average and typical aren't like that. They want to shoot a big buck, but they're not going to pass up, you know, deer to get to the big ones or anything like that. And they're not going to go the extra mile. So they do get to the big ones because they're perfectly happy with whatever. And which is, again, like hands down, I in a lot of ways, like we talked about that last time, I do genuinely wish I could be that way, because I think it would not make me so crazy sometimes. But I like that aspect of figuring it out, figuring the pressure out, like being on pressured ground. Like, I have access to really good private, and I don't touch it that much. And dude, going to my private ground, I'm going to shoot a big one. And what's going to be fun for me is, for one, it's going to go back to being a kid, because I have no idea what's out there. I don't have cameras on it. And like, I'm going to be rut hunting, and the first big one that comes by is getting smoked. My family's going to be there, and that's always fun. Like, my grandpa's getting older in age, and so if I shoot one, he'll drive the tractor down there and drag it out with me, and I love that. And like, so like, all that's fun. The 125 on my wall is these bucks right here are way more rewarding than this 150 right here. And like, way great memories. I had a blast. I learned a lot about that property, and I love hunting that way, and it's fun and all that. But like, the grind of public and figuring it out and doing these extra steps, and you know, like chasing that 10-pointer, like putting him on the ground. Like I said, he might not been the biggest buck I'll ever shoot or anything like that, but like, just the grind of it, and the figuring him out, and being in the areas that he was supposed to be, and doing it on purpose. And that stuff there's not a lot of guys that hunt that way. And so I think, like, when me and you talk about like this, your average and typical, like, it's not to put someone else down.
No.
And, yeah. And I want to reiterate that, not at all. It's just, when I see a ladder stand and 3 cell cameras in one cove, I go, this person walked from the parking lot down the easy access trail, walked 40 yards and got in that tree stand. And a doe runs by and he'll shoot that 170, but it's all luck at that point.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Me going in there, reading the sign, understanding how they work these coves, understanding the thermals, going a mile away, coming back around and slipping in there was more rewarding. Like I said, switched spots, and I could have went and sat in that guy's ladder stand, walked 40 yards and shot the big buck. I wouldn't like it wouldn't have been as rewarding to me as if walking the whole, not that I have to walk miles there or anything like that, but just like the whole thought process of it and breaking it down and all that kind of stuff. And I genuinely think that like there's there's two different hunters, and then like I said, there's guys in the NBA and then there's your Kobe's, and like not that they're in that sense we're not better than them, but you know there's a reason your big bucks or your big buck killers are getting it done consistently. You know, there's a reason for that, and it's because they're taking the extra steps, they're learning the extra stuff, they're questioning everything, and they're bettering themselves. You know,
And to speak on like those ladder stands, like those probably do produce because those are, if you're rifle hunting in Pennsylvania, like you know they're putting on drives, so those ladder stands are probably set up for those drives to like to have so like when you hunt primarily by yourself, or you and one guy, you and another buddy go out, you're trying to hunt off what happened the previous 2 days. So like if there was drives going on, you have to be like, okay, where are these deer going to go, right? And what I found in like the area I'm hunting is like there's a lot of sign or very little sign put down where it's thick. So like it's not just thick because there's little trees, or it's not just thick because there's laurel. It's not thick because there's a pine thicket. It's thick because it's hard for them to walk through there. So with them walking through, they're not going to lay down a lot of sign. If that makes sense. Like
and you can't see it. I think a lot of sign that's being laid down by deer is for other deer to see.
Yep.
And if you're in a big thicket, they can't see it. So why would they lay it down?
And I mean, there's even a study out with that too, with the whole
oh yeah, I seen that.
UV stuff. Like I actually have a UV light and like it was shining in all my clothes. And I was like, holy shit, like I'm never wearing that shirt again.
Yeah.
Like there's something to it.
I do that because it dies. That was like I always said, like I'm in love with like the guys that just hunt like Walmart camo or whatever. But like if you don't take a UV light to that, like it's not about buying expensive clothes.
No.
But when you go and shine and you're like, oh, because they see blue really well. So like it makes sense that the rubs and stuff do that, which I never would have thought of.
No.
I have to read it. I've only seen posts about it. But
But yeah, I mean it's so like I'm focusing this rifle season, like by the time this drops going to be that what I say December 8th or something like that. So like the last full week of rifle. And if I don't have a buck tag punched yet, or some doe punched at least, like that's kind of my plan. Go to those places that are kind of overlooked and hard access. Not necessarily that they're overlooked. It's like when people get to those spots, like F this, I'm not going to walk through that, right? And even drives, like when you look at the spot, be like, would someone go through this area and do a deer drive through this?
Right.
Like the really thick laurel, they don't really try and do deer drives through it because it's too thick, and like they won't be able to get a shot, right? But then there's other spots where it's like, if I walk through, I'm going to twist an ankle, I'm going to break a leg or something like that, like, or it's too steep and all that kind of stuff. Like I'm not young enough for that.
So the equivalent to that in the Midwest is what I call backdoors. And it's like, so if you got all this gun pressure and you got all this hunting pressure, and they do drives here, it's technically illegal. What I've seen people do is they do like soft drives where they do like scent. So like they go sit on this side of the thicket and then wind bump them. You know, or just a son and a dad, and he'll be like, hey man, like I'm gonna get down early and I'll try pushing them to you kind of deal, you know, whatever. But like what I have capitalized on deer where it's like if they have all this pressure, then and they're using, let's say they go to this private. Well, where do they come and go off that private? and you know what I mean? So, you know, we
Mhm.
don't have crazy terrain that's gonna, yes, we have terrain and access routes that guys aren't gonna go do, or like
Mhm.
thickets that guys aren't just, they don't have the equipment, like, you know, to get in there and hunt it or whatever, or they're not ground hunters, you know, kind of deal. But we don't have like some crazy terrain that's gonna keep anybody. Like I
Mhm.
genuinely think like most people could do and get into these spots. And I also think that like I'm blessed to be in an area of the Midwest where like you know, anyone could be a, you know, you take a guy from PA that's like a killer, like he'd have a heyday out here and he'd run
Mhm.
circles around me, like legitimately. We're blessed with just having good bucks and being able to get lucky a lot, you know. But genuinely, like the same thing. If I'm not looking for terrain that's going to defeat people, I'm looking for access routes that the deer aren't used to. And then
Mhm.
I do use a lot of like back doors where
Yeah.
like, okay, how do they come and go off of this property? Like what winds do they want to come and go on? And if there is a bunch of, if there is a bunch of pressure all of a sudden that hits like that 800 acres. So how I found those islands is I went to that 800 acres to hunt, and there was 5 guys in that parking lot. And this
Mhm.
was like November 7th last year. And so I was like, well, there's giant buck sign in here, and the buck's got to go somewhere. And
Mhm.
so I was like, well, I'm gonna go down here. I've never seen anyone park here. And I went down there and I scouted around. I had hunted in there before because I've hunted out here for years, like 10 plus years. But I was like, I never thought of it like that sense. It wasn't until last year I was like, oh, well, then their deer just gonna go there. And I went
Mhm.
in there and I had great hunts. Now I never ran into my big buck there, and you know, I eventually got pictures of him and chased him around. But I mean, that's where they went. And then the moment that the pressure, like after the rut was over and guys went home and
Mhm.
shot their nice buck and moved on, a 10-pointer moved right back into that 800
Yep.
acres.
Yep.
And it's like I, you know, the same thing that you're saying, like
Yeah.
go find super steep terrain, getting in places that, you know, accessing it a little bit differently. And then for me, it's just I find, you know, weird access routes, and then I find, you know, back doors and sneaky ways that these deer, the people aren't thinking of, like, oh, they're
Mhm.
crossing right here against this road. And like, is that a, it's not a terrain feature that's going to keep people out of it, but everyone's parking at the parking lot and then going back, you know, 200-300 yards into the thicket or whatever. Well,
Yep.
the moment that that happens, those bucks get up and move to the road. It's
Yep.
like, okay, I'll just go right here to the road and be 20 yards from the parking lot. The biggest deer I've ever hunted on public ground was, he was using, it was a cove that had come all the way to the road, and then it was
Mhm.
a small bridge, and then on the other side was a finger. It was literally a tiny finger, and this buck lived on that finger. And then he would get up and he would at, like, you know, dark, and he would move across the road and he would walk into that cove. And there's guys that got pictures of him, but you'd never get him in the daylight over there. And the
Mhm.
only place that you would ever get him in daylight was right at, like, you start getting closer to the rut and stuff like that. Sometimes you'd catch him coming out of it later in the morning, and you'd
Mhm.
catch him coming into it like earlier in the evening and be crossing the road a little bit early. But everyone was back there hunting, so no one knew he was right there by the road. And
That's
like,
a very good point because my one buddy brought that up. This the ruck camp, like he was like, because Ethan got a really big, I think it was a big 8 point. Like I'm not good at scoring, but I would say it probably was a 140-inch buck 8 point.
sick.
Like it
He
was
posted
massive.
it, didn't he?
No, no, we did not post
Okay.
that. No,
Okay.
but a lot of people know about that buck now.
Okay.
Um,
Well,
but
congratulations, E.
yeah, he'll, he didn't get it yet, but hopefully he'll get it.
Oh, I thought you
Um,
said he did.
no, he got a picture of it on trail
Oh,
camera.
I thought he shot it.
No, nope.
Dang.
I wish.
Okay.
I wish that would be awesome.
Okay.
But you know, it was near a road, and we were like, "Ah, how can we set up for this buck?" Like it was only a couple days before, like we pulled this camera. It was only like two days before. All right. So we're like, how can we set up? Like we were focused on this one side, and this leads to like another tip for all the listeners here. Like we were so focused on this one drainage on this one side, and there's a road separating from another drainage on the other side. And the our buddy Jimmy was like, up here, like the roads aren't like a barrier. It's not like the Mexican border. They can cross that road and go to the other side. We were like, holy shit, you're right.
I was like, what was the wind on these days? And it was a wind that would dictate him being on that side of the road. And I was like, well, let's go set up on this side. Let's go right now and look for sign on this side. And it was like this was this November 7th, so it was Friday. November 8th was our last day up there to hunt, and we all got back to the cabin early because it started raining at like 3:30, like downpouring and stuff like that. And we were sitting back at the camp, and it was still light outside. I was like, Ethan, you have a tree stand. Let's go in there right now and go hang this setup and see. And we went in there as soon as we were walking in there on this main road. Like, it's a driving road, it's a dirt road. We're driving right on it. We get to almost a spot that we want to cut down anyway, and 4 doe jump out from literally right beside the road and just go down through this little saddle. I was like, that's the spot we got to go in. We got to where there's doe over. We walked straight down. There was a huge scrape down there. I was like, we got to set up right here at the very top of the drainage. Between the top of the drainage and that road, there was like 3 scrapes, not many rubs, but there was 3 scrapes right there, and the doe right above that was doe. Now, Ethan went in the next day. It was kind of blown out because a truck literally parked right at this saddle where like the deer were at the night before, and they were hunting on both sides of him down below. So it was like it kind of ruined the spot. But it was like, if we found that possibly on a different day, like midweek or something like that, we could be like, okay, let's make a play on this side here, because
Well, and it's something to go back on.
right.
I always tell people that, like, just because you found it and someone else blew it out, then that's something that I'll keep in my back pocket. And every time I hunt that area, if I got an extra 30 minutes to an hour or something, I'll pop in there, just check it. And like all of a sudden you get down there after a rainy day and there's big buck tracks in it, and you're like, aha, day back. You know what I mean? Or whatever. And so, you know, I guess that leads to even another tip is like, don't just because someone blew it out one time, especially on public ground, like, yeah, those deer will turn around and come back right back to it. Like, it takes a lot to blow deer completely out of it. And then, but it also takes very little for them to come back. They'll be, this hair is driving me nuts. They, this is dog hair just sticking up. I kept moving when I was talking. Anyways, because they're so used to humans, like they just learn to come in there and check it, and they'll check it a few times. And once they've come in there 2 or 3 times and no one's been in there, then they're going about business as usual. And so, and that's like you were saying, like, do I feel the pressure? Yes, but I won't mark that spot off.
No.
I just know that those guys are going to give up on it. They're going to put their cell cameras in there. Them deer ain't going to like them cell cameras. They're not going to like that ladder stand. They're not going to like them coming in and going like that. And for the next couple of weeks, they're going to be very, very wary of walking through there. And then I'll still go in there. And like, now that I know that they're using it that way, I'll do the same thing. Like, to go scout it now, like, I'm not going to make a big loop to go in there. I'm just going to go in like everybody else does and scout it. And then the moment that I see that they pulled those stuff, and then I'll kind of look around, am I getting, you know, tracks coming in here? Am I getting rubs in here again? Or, you know, depending on the time of the season, you know, that kind of thing. And then, I think a big part of like my game is I definitely have history with all the spots that I hunt. Like, most of them I've been hunting several years now. But my big thing is like, I just don't like, if I find good sign, like, I'm keeping it in my back pocket, even if it gets blown out, because like how I've learned sign reading is finding it in early October and then every 2 weeks go back. Like, I did that for years. And then it's like, okay, well, you know, and then you compare it to last year. And then you compare that for 2 years ago. And then you compare that to, remember when it was beans this year and corn this year? And you see what I'm saying? And then I start getting an idea of like, okay, like, I can walk in this spot, give me 30 minutes to walk here, check these 4 spots. If there's nothing going on there, I can know it like that and get out. But I'm not going to be like, oh, they're never going to be in here, because I remember I found a giant rub up here by the road. And so I know there's a big buck in here. He'll use this eventually. 2 weeks later, I'll come back, it'll be giant sign everywhere. And you're like, now it's hot, because I was just in there 2 weeks ago and I know it's hot now. You know, and that's just the luxury of living close to where I hunt and you know, being a whitetail bum, but you know, just being crazy about it.
And then also, like, what I've tried to do is like mark those access points
of like where people, those big parking lots, mark them down. Like maybe when you're driving, one thing I'm doing this weekend is like I'm getting up there on Friday, the day before opening day of rifle. I'm gonna be driving around those back roads to see like where are those main parking areas at, and like near where I want to go, where that steep terrain is and all that kind of stuff. But I'm also mixing, I want to find that steep terrain with red oaks. So like this time of year, like they're going to be hitting those red oaks a lot. From what I saw up north, like they are hitting those red oaks nonstop, and red oaks seem to be producing a good amount this year. And it's like find that steep terrain with red oaks in it and with thermal cover in it, and it's like that's a really good area to try and hone in on. Like you might get in there, they might not be there the first day or second day, or but when that cold snap hits, when it gets really cold and that snow comes, you bet your bottom dollar they're going to be in there, and they're going to be ready. Like they're going to be bedded down right there, right by the food.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
that's what I'm going to try and do.
Yeah, and I think how long we've been on here for an hour and a half. So I'll kind of wrap it up with this. I think like my biggest takeaway when it comes to like public land, and I've said this before, is like you genuinely you have to start somewhere, and you just can't be scared to fail and go do it.
Yep.
Like that's how I've gotten as far as I've gotten. I'm not scared to mess that 200-inch deer up. I don't care like that, because if I'm in the game with a deer that big, or any deer like that, like I'm either gonna I look at it as like succeed or learn. There's not a fail. Like I'm either gonna win here, or like something's gonna happen in which like, okay, well, like next time I come in here, I know I can't use that access because I blow them out every time. I didn't even know I was blowing them out until try 3.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, why am I not seeing deer? And then I come in a completely different way, and then there they are. And like, oh well, duh. You know what I mean? And, that kind of thing. And it's just like, I do that now. Like, and so, imagine 7 years ago, 8 years ago, when I had no idea, you know what I mean? And I was just hunting like everybody else and just figuring out and going and kicking deer, doing this and that and the other. Like I was the first 3-4 years on public. Like I think the first 2 years, I didn't even see a deer. Like if I did, it was in a field, way far away. And then like I didn't shoot a buck on public till like year 4 or 5 hunting public ground. And so it's like I was making tons of mistakes, and and I'm just that's just kind of part of the process. And I don't let the 1,000 times I'm going in there, tomorrow's gonna be it. That's just how I look at it. Like, okay, well, tomorrow I'm gonna kill then. Like I even told Buddy tonight, like he's going hunting somewhere else and I'm going hunting somewhere else. I said, well, call me because somebody's gonna be dragging something. And he laughed and he's like, you know how many times I've heard that this year? And I'm like, I know. I need to quit saying it, but someone's got to get it done. And it's like, but that's the mentality. Like you just go in and mess it up, man, and go have a good time, go have fun, go figure it out. You're not going to figure out your style of hunting by not doing it. And you don't know if you like saddle hunting, rifle hunting, bow hunting, crossbow hunting, ground hunting, like, you know what I mean? The Midwest, the mountains, like, unless you do it. And then, and find your shtick and go for it. And you'll have so much more fun, and you'll feel so free once because I did that for years. I was like, well, I got to hunt this way, or Dan Infault said this, or Cody said you got to hunt low, or so-and-so said you got to hunt downwind of doe bedding. And like, I think it's funny because like we have these conversations and you pull a lot of information out of me, but like when I talk to my buddies, they're like, you genuinely just like go. And I'm like, yeah, like genuinely, I just don't. Like I do think very deep into it if you ask me and like start thinking about it, but like you just kind of look at it as like what I'm doing and how, like, I don't know, like I'm gonna go find deer. Like I'm gonna go find a deer and I'm gonna hunt them. And if I find a big one, I'm gonna hunt him. And I have learned enough now that I'm not gonna do that stupidly. But there was years of me just doing it stupidly. And like, and I still do. I'll still go to new spots and completely blow it out. How are you supposed to know that those deer set up like that? How are you supposed to know where all the sign was? How are you supposed to know that that was the easy access until you walk it and kick them and do it and figure it out? Like I didn't look at this area from an aerial map and be like, oh, that's the access point. Everyone's going to walk in there. There's access points out here on this public ground that like there's a path that goes right down the middle of it, and there isn't a single person that walks down it. I
Yeah.
figured that out because I went and walked down the single path. And then
Yeah.
I started realizing like, oh, there's all these little nooks and crannies of other paths. These are the main trails guys are using. They're not
Mhm.
using this big main trail. And you
Mhm.
can walk down the main trail and not kick a single deer. It's
Yeah.
like, but I walked down the main trail, you know what I mean? It wasn't
Yep.
like the first time I went in there. I did the mile over here and walked around it. Like I did that once I had already made the mistakes or figured this part out. And like the cool thing about like right now is we have low water, so I can do that. Next year, if we have high water, it'll be a whole other game
Mhm.
because I won't be able to walk the edge of the water like I could, and because they bed right up against the water. But I have
Yeah.
enough bank right now. I got 10 foot of bank that I can walk around.
Mm.
And like,
Mhm.
so last year, I wasn't able to do that. I could walk the bank 2-3 feet. And so like, I had to like, there was a lot of like, I had to wear waders to like
Mhm.
get around stuff and, stuff like that. So it's just, like I said, like, access is key. Attitude is key. I think staying in
Mhm.
shape is key. And then like, I genuinely feel like if you're going to hunt public ground, you're going to have to be a grinder, like, especially if you want to shoot the big ones. You're going to have to be okay with failing
Mhm.
majority of the time, feeling insane. Like my wife is like, well, I mean, like you see deer, like, if you're feeling bad about, cause I will get down on myself. She's like, if you just shoot one, who cares? And I'm like, but I know I won't be that pumped if I shoot just a little buck or
Yeah.
something. You know what I mean? And
Yep.
I enjoy watching them.
Mhm.
And so, that's where it's just like, yeah, but I'll be bummed about it tonight.
Yep.
On when I called my buddy after seeing that big 10-pointer, I was like, what did I do?
Yeah.
Like, I gotta go to church and get blessed with some holy water because, brother, this bad luck is just on me. I'm done. I'm freaking getting a spotlight. Like I'm, whatever, right? And 10:30, I'll sleep it off in the morning.
Yep.
I'll be focused on messing the next spot up.
Yep.
So
Yep.
and I think if you don't have that mentality and you're a guy that gets bummed out easily and you get down on yourself real easily and you don't have that self motivation, that self drive, and that want to do it, and having like, I genuinely just like the whole aspect of it.
Mhm.
I like getting my ass kicked. I like eating tag soup, and it sucks when you're at Thanksgiving and they're like, oh, there's a great white deer hunter. Are you going to shoot a buck, Mr. Podcast guy? You know what I mean? And you're like, yeah, I get it. If I wanted to shoot every deer in the woods, I could have done it. But
Yeah.
like, I want to shoot these deer and like,
Yep.
I'll let people make fun of me. I don't care. Like, I have so much fun. Like, just, it's such a blessing to be out there, to witness what we get to witness, to be a
Mhm.
part of conservation, to chase these animals, and I'm super blessed to be in the area that I'm in with the size of animals that I have to be able to chase. And
Mhm.
it's like, you start getting into the inches, and the success only comes by harvest and all this kind of stuff. You get into that mentality and you're going to lose yourself really quickly. And I think like,
Mhm.
find your thing, go mess it up, go have fun, go get some buddies that haven't done it, teach them some things, learn
Mhm.
some things from a new buddy, get you a group of friends and just go and do it. And if
Mhm.
you stick to that kind of game plan, that's how it started with me. I wasn't this obsessed at first. And it wasn't until I started shooting and getting on the big bucks that I was like, oh gosh, there goes Nick. See
Yep.
ya.
Yep.
Like, and I didn't know. It was like, I just had fun hunting and I was hope hunting and never had a trail camera. And I didn't run trail cameras till, shoot, it'd have been my first really running trail camera was like 2020.
Mhm.
They were around a long time before that. And I
Yep.
never had them. And I didn't have the money to buy them.
Yeah.
And so it was like, I don't know. I think guys get caught up in Instagram and
Mhm.
everyone's shooting big bucks, and I don't want to shoot a buck that I don't want to post. Like, I got friends that shoot giants, and like Lee. Lee's
Mhm.
been in the paper one time, and he'll tell people all the time. Like, I guess they called him. They said some sort of like whether they called him Asian or something. He's something else that's not Asian. I'm like,
Yeah.
Lee, you're Asian. Like, to us white people, you're Asian, brother. And he's like, I know it, but they messed it up, or whatever. And so like, but you'd never know. You'd have no
Yeah.
idea. You'd see him on the sidewalk or whatever,
Mhm.
and he'd be like, hey, come over, and you'd walk into a room full of just giants that all been
Mhm.
shot on public and never taken a picture before in his life.
Mhm.
Like, you know, and so I just think like guys get way too caught up in having to have the success, and, you know, dude, just go have fun. Like, this is so
Mhm.
much fun. Getting your ass kicked is fun. Like, it is. It teaches you about yourself. It you know, and I told my wife, like, especially with kids, like my kids know how hard I hunt, and like they know I'm after the big ones, and they mess with me. My oldest, she'll mess with me. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, oh yeah, going hunting. Okay, let me know how many squirrels you see, Mister
Yeah.
Bird Watcher. Like, you know, she messes with me. But like I told her, I was like, but genuinely, like, take my attitude towards what I do with this, and if I can just give them a little bit of that into
Mhm.
life, because that's what
Mhm.
life is. Life's going to beat you up. It's not going to be peachy. It's not going to be
Mhm.
successful all the time. And if you're counting your success in money, and you're counting your success in assets, and you're counting your success in all this, you're missing it.
Mhm.
And I feel like deer hunting is the same exact way.
Yep. Yep.
So
I completely agree with that. Yeah. Just for all listeners, just if you're rifle hunting in Pennsylvania, I think don't lose the mindset of being an archery hunter. Focus on a thick cover, getting thick, they're going to be there. But yeah, Nick, I really appreciate you coming on here and telling the story about the 10 point that, I thought you shot, and I was like, oh my God, yes.
that not like perfect though setup?
That was like perfect timing for that. um, but let the listeners know where they can follow you, go subscribe to you, and all that kind of good stuff, man.
Yeah, so I do a lot of vlogging on Instagram, but Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube is where you'll find all my content. It's at lethal_Nick. Like I said, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. I'm all over the place. So yeah,
Cool, man. Thanks for coming on.
of course, man. I appreciate you.